Sure, no issues. No issues.
So, so at least 30 seconds to 60 seconds. Yeah.
Okay, done. I'll wait. Good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to the 4th day of National Science Series Igniting Young Minds. You know, this day is special because it is only and only for the students, and that too all across India. Science Series Igniting Young Minds, the title itself says Young Minds. The entire focus was on our students so that they come up with new ideas, they talk about new things, and we are able to tackle the problems which are there all around us, because young minds will come with a different vision altogether. So keeping that series alive and kicking, coming to the last day, that is workshop on referencing scientific literature, how to cite and write. This is very, very important exercise for each one of us as a teacher as well as the students, because you will get to understand how to cite proper scientific manner. Whenever we give assignments, we see in the reference, people write Google engine, website, right? So apart from that, we have to move one step higher, one step more organized, one step more scientific. So without much ado, I will hand over the opportunity to my young colleague, Dr. Neeru Bhagat, I'm so sorry, Neeru Bhagat, to introduce the speaker, our very dear student, Pooja. So Dr. Neeru, please take over.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. It is my immense pleasure to introduce Ms. Pooja Gupta. She is a PhD student at York Structural Laboratory, University of York, UK. She has completed her undergraduate degree in microbiology in 2018 at Bhaskaracharya College of Applied Sciences. So she is an alumnus of Bhaskaracharya College. She was awarded the prestigious Gates Cavendish Scholarship to pursue her MPhil in biological science in the laboratory of Professor Sir Tom Blundell at the Department of Biochemistry, University of Cambridge. Here, she worked on the enzyme targets in the arginine biosynthetic pathway of Mycobacterium tuberculosis, employing the fragment-based structure-guided approach for early-stage anti-tubercular drug discovery. She also gained some experience in X-ray crystallography and with a keen interest in applying structural biology techniques to study bacterial sensing and transport mechanisms. She started her PhD with Dr. Jamie Blazer at the York Structural Biology Laboratory, Department of Biochemistry, University of York in 2020, and she secured a competitive YGRS Overseas Research Scholarship for the same. The aim of her PhD is to investigate the molecular events that lead to the germination of bacillus species source using the high-resolution single particle cryo-electron microscopy. As an undergraduate, she served as the editor-in-chief, and subsequently as the president of the Sukshmajeev Society. She was actively engaged in organizing various academic and co-curricular activities during this time. And she, as an alumnus, she endeavors to continue her association with this excellent initiative. Pooja, now please take this dice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhagat. Am I audible? Is this fine for everybody?
Yes, Pooja, if you're audible, you can be a bit louder. It will be better. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that will happen eventually. So I will share my screen now.
Yes.
And we can... Right. Is this visible to everybody?
Yes, Pooja, it is.
Excellent. So, hello, everybody. I'm Pooja, and I will endeavor to share with you today what I have learned over the years about reading and writing and communicating science. And I hope that by the end of this exercise, you would be more familiar with.
Of Professor Sir Tom Blundell at the Department of Biochemistry,
Is there
University of Cambridge.
feedback?
Here she worked on the enzyme targets in.
Okay. Pooja, just a minute.
Haji, that's okay.
Okay. I think it's gone. Yeah.
Yes. So I'd like to start by just showing something very simple here. If you were to Google antimicrobial resistance, these are the kind of suggestions Google will show you. Mechanisms, antimicrobial resistance in India, global report on surveillance, and so forth. And then if you scroll further, you'll see very simple questions like, is an antimicrobial the same as an antibiotic? What is the meaning of antibiotic resistance, right? So this is the kind of search results. These are the sort of search results you would get if you were to search for antimicrobial resistance on Google. That's fine. But if you were to do something similar on Google Scholar, then the kind of suggestions Google would start making are immediately very different. Patterns, genes, in developing countries, you see the name of a bacterium as well. So resistance in a particular bacterial species and trends and so forth. And then if you scroll further, you'll see these very complicated looking articles with complex titles and words in the titles that don't immediately make sense because, of course, these are technical terms. And the point I'm trying to make here is that when we talk about technical or scientific writing, what's happening is that we're going from being generalists to becoming specialists. Specialists who have a similar technical background, which means that they have the terminology that they need to understand and communicate with each other. And this terminology is very specific to a field and all the things that you would study if you're undertaking research in that field. So it's what makes scientific writing distinct almost. It's the usage of a very technical language of terminology that is specific to a field. And immediately, this sets apart general writing and technical writing. But what is it that people want to discuss, when they use all this technical jargon? And simply put, the purpose of scientific research, the purpose of scientific writing is to describe research methods and research and results in sufficient detail such that the study being communicated can be reproduced by any other scientist anywhere in the world. So when you write a research article, what is the objective? The objective is, this is what I've done, this is what I've found. If you don't believe me, you can repeat what I've done and you will see that you will get the same results. If a study, assuming it scientifically sound, can be replicated, that means it can be understood by someone else. So you have managed to communicate your work successfully because you were able to say what you wanted to say and the other person was able to understand what you wanted them to understand, right? Now, here, I'm just trying to show you these Annus Mirabilis papers by Albert Einstein. So Annus Mirabilis in Latin translates to the miracle year. So 1905 was called, eventually, in hindsight, it was referred to as the miraculous year because Albert Einstein published these 4 papers that changed theoretical physics forever. These are pictures of this other paper that was published in 1953. Many of you must be familiar with it. It was published in the journal Nature by Francis Crick and James Watson. And this paper that showed, or well, speculated that the structure of DNA was a double helix, changed molecular biology forever. So the point I'm trying to make is that scientists may be mortal, but their work, written and shared with the world, is not as short-lived as the scientists themselves. So when you write, remember, you're potentially building a legacy for yourself, right? And to add to this, if you open Google Scholar, you'll see this, this sentence there: stand on the shoulders of giants. And this is referring to a quotation by Sir Isaac Newton. And he wrote this in a letter to Robert Hooke, who many of you will also know to be the person who looked at things under the microscope, the first person to do so, along with Leeuwenhoek. He made his own microscopes. If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. Point is, scientists build on each other's work. We verify each other's work, we refer to it, and that is why scientific research is predicated on citing literature. Citing literature is absolutely fundamental to the process. And citations are also a measure of how robust and influential one's findings are, which makes sense, doesn't it? If something has been cited more, then people think that it's useful work which needs to be built upon further. So for a scientific journal, the average number of citations that it receives in a year by all the articles it has published in the previous 2 years is called its impact factor. So again, very, very intuitive, impact. How do we know that something is important in what it's trying to say about the natural world? Have we discovered something that's absolutely groundbreaking? Have we discovered something that's not so groundbreaking but is useful to build on a groundbreaking finding? Something that's incremental, not revolutionary. So scientific journals have a way of assessing the nature of the work that they publish. And it therefore makes sense that the higher the impact factor of a journal, the more important science it is publishing. So Nature, for instance, has an impact factor of 42.7, which basically means that in the year 2017 and 2018, all the papers that Nature published on an average was cited by 42 other papers. The idea is that if every paper that you publish as a journal is being cited 42 times, then clearly the work that you're publishing as a journal is very important in the field. Now, there is a similar metric for individual researchers as well, and it's called the H index. Now, H index is very simply put, H, if a researcher has published H papers and each paper has been cited at least H number of times, right? So for instance, here, you can see that there is a list of researchers and we can see what their H index is. So Foucault, ranked number 1, has an H index of 296, which means that he has he's no longer alive. He published 296 papers in his career, and each of those 296 papers had at least 296 citations. Obviously, they could be cited many more times, but at least 296 times. Every paper that he published was cited, and he published 296 papers. So I hope that sort of makes sense. And just to add to that, why is this somewhat complicated measure used? It's used because it's possible for a researcher to discover something and write a paper about it. And because of how important this one discovery is, um, the paper will get cited thousands and thousands of times. And so if you look at the absolute number of citations received by this one researcher, you would think, oh my God, he or she, must be absolutely brilliant. But it's also possible for this researcher to never publish anything equally impactful ever again. So, they would have a one-hit wonder, and that would be the only way to assess their impact in the field. And that is unfair, because what you want from a researcher is consistent productivity. So you want to say that a researcher over the course of his career has published many papers, and all those papers had a similar impact in the field. People in the field thought that consistently this person has produced good quality work, and that's what an H index is a measure of. Now, having understood what the act of citing literature means in the world of scientific research, I'd like to now move on to the specifics of literature. What makes scientific literature different from any newspaper article that you would read, or a BuzzFeed article, or anything on Facebook? Like, what makes it so rigorous? What makes it so unique? And the two papers that I had requested all of you to read, one of them was an original research article, and the other one was a review or a perspective article, right? So there are two types of scientific literature, mostly, that you find. Obviously, there are other types, but these are the two predominant types. You have research articles, and the purpose of a research article is to communicate original research. So if you've done some experiments and you have some interesting results that you'd like to share with others in the field, then you would write an original research article. However, if you wanted to think about everything that has been done in a field, all the important results, you wanted to analyze what these articles together are trying to say, or the trends that you can see when you read all these articles together and try to make sense of, okay, where is the field headed? What are the kind of trends that are emerging from the research that is being done in the field? Those kind of articles are understandably called reviews. So you review what has been done so far. And that allows you to develop a perspective, an understanding of where the field is heading, what has been accomplished, what remains to be accomplished, what is further, what's the scope for further research and further work, etc. Now, if you were to look at a research article, the one that I sent, for instance, what is the general structure, the general anatomy of a research article? And I'm going to describe it as an annoyingly skeptical scientist, because that's a hallmark of scientists. We're just really skeptical people. So the first section would be an abstract. And the point of an abstract is you have 5 minutes you need to grab my attention, right? So I am just going through the website of a journal, and I am looking at all the new articles that the journal is advertising. And I've clicked on one article and I look at the abstract. And the job of the abstract is to lure me into continuing to read the article. So if the abstract is written well, then you have my attention because I'm like, ooh, this looks interesting. This might be an interesting study. So I then proceed to read the introduction. Now that I've decided to read this, tell me why the world couldn't do without your study. Like, what is it that made you do the set of experiments that you did? What has been, why do you need to do this study? That is what the point of an introduction is, to set the stage, to say, this is what has been done. This is what we didn't know until I did these experiments and showed that this is what is happening. So that's the point of the introduction. Then you have the results in the discussion section. So having set the stage with your introduction, what you want to do is triumphantly declare, okay, this is what I've found, and this is what this means. You know, if I have found that X causes Y, and I have used the technique Z to be able to say that X causes Y, this is a big result in itself, and this is what it means. So this, of course, is the highlight of a paper. This is what you're trying to say to the world. This is the sort of information you're declaring on in the public arena. And then your conclusion, of course, is more thoughtful after having declared that you have achieved something that's worth other people's attention. You then think about what has this study done in the larger context of research in the field, and what more can be done, because that is the most important thing coming out of any research. This is what is accomplished, but look at everything else that now needs to be accomplished. So that is also a very, very important part of a paper. And personally, some of the papers I've read over the years, I've remembered how well written the conclusions and the discussion sections were, because it's that context that some people are very effectively able to provide, in addition to writing up their results. And of course, the results in themselves could be spectacular, but it's just an extra cherry on the top if you're able to then say, okay, these are my results, but think about what this means. And then personally, also, I would say that this is the first section I read, if especially if it's a paper in my own field, because this is the section that has the meat of the paper. If you wanted to actually build on the findings of a paper that you're reading, materials and methods, you can be, like I said, annoyingly skeptical, and you can say, okay, your results look fantastic, and you've tried to sell the story to me so well. You're telling me that, oh, these results are so influential that everything that is done in the field from here on will have to take into account the findings that I'm presenting. But what if I don't believe anything you're saying? Because that is perfectly legitimate. You cannot believe anything that is being said in the paper and say, I want to reproduce and repeat your results. I want to repeat your experiments and reproduce results. And the materials and methods section, therefore, is the meat, in the sense that it gives you all the instructions, or at least a well-written materials and methods section should give you everything you need, all the instructions, all the ingredients. Think of it as a recipe book, right? if you wanted to cook something, you need specific quantities of specific ingredients and very exact instructions about what to add, when to add it, how long do you leave it for, and so forth. So a well-written materials and methods section is absolutely crucial for your study to be reproducible. And reproducibility is everything. Reproducibility is everything because without reproducibility, your paper or your findings can never be cited by anyone because no one would find it useful. Science depends on reproducibility. And how it progresses also depends on work being reproducible. Because if all we did was publish useless results that cannot be reproduced, other researchers will waste time and resources trying to reproduce your work, which was not reported properly. And it's just a colossal waste. So, this is what a research article generally looks like. Now, the question is, when confronted by a research article, what do you do? How do you read a research article? And most importantly, it's not just about reading the words, is it? It's also about understanding the words, assimilating what you've read in a way that you can actually think about what you've read and apply what you've learned to your own research. So the first thing I'd say is, no matter how old you are, what you're doing, if you're doing an undergraduate degree, a postgraduate degree, if you're in school, I mean, I read my first research article when I was 16, didn't understand a word. But the point is, you need to start reading. It's never too late. It's never too early. Start reading. Familiarizing yourself with the exercise just makes it simpler. Don't be intimidated if you don't understand the first few papers you read. It's part of the learning process. So you just keep reading more and more, and it will become easier. Start with topics that you're already interested in. So if you're an undergraduate and you have an area that you find more interesting than other areas, I would say find articles that are relevant to the research in that area and start with those articles because you already have an impetus, you already have some incentive to wade in and go in deeper, delve in deeper. You can read news articles about the papers before reading the papers themselves. And I often do this myself because it's just easier for someone to give you a digest. And that's what news pieces do. They give you a digest of what the study is trying to say. And then you're intrigued. You're immediately intrigued because you see the results and you find the results interesting. And then you're like, you know what? I want to read more about how they got these results. And that's when you find yourself reading the papers. This is very important. So figure out the order in which you want to read the various sections. So the anatomy that I just described of the paper, you need to find a way in which you can best read different sections of a paper and build a coherent story and understanding in your own head about what's going on. You have to find what works for you to make the process efficient. Because in research, you have to read on a daily basis. So you're reading a lot, you're reading all the time. So you can't have an inefficient reading process. You have to be quick in being able to judge whether you want to spend the time reading a paper and trying to understand what it's saying. Because of course, papers are complex and they're trying to communicate complex information. So you can't just, skim through a paper and be like, yeah, okay, I understand everything they've done. Often you have to spend time reading, looking up other papers to understand what's going on in this paper, look up textbooks to understand some concepts. You know, if you come across a technique, for instance, you come across some fluorescence microscopy experiments, for instance, and you want to understand how fluorescence microscopy works, you'll have to look up the technique itself. And so you already must be beginning to appreciate that it's not a linear process. You know, it's something that reading a paper and understanding it requires you to look up all sorts of other things. So it's very important to find an efficient way in which you can look at a paper, decide whether you want to read it or not. If you want to read it, you must then have a plan. Do I read the materials and methods first? Do I read the introduction first? Do I read the results first? What do I do? And how do I then proceed from there? Now, this is also crucial if you want to write while you're reading, because often you read because you want to write a thesis, write a paper, write a short report on what you're doing. So making notes is very useful, because while you're reading something, you're actually working hard to understand. And while you're understanding, you have all these ideas. And you're processing things. So if you write down what you've learned and what you've processed while you're doing so, it just makes it very easy for you to later refer to what you've understood. And right, and I'm going to come to this later. This also is something that I like to tell people. When you read, you're not just trying to take up new information, right? Because you have you have a repository of information in here that you have built over the years. And so when you read something, it's very important for you to connect what you're reading, new information, with old information up here. And while you're doing this, if you keep writing what you're doing and what you're thinking, then the process of writing later becomes incredibly simple. Using reference managers to arrange the papers you have read is also a good thing to do. Now, if you're doing a research degree, for instance, and you started reading some papers very early on, then you went in the lab, did some experiments, and then you read some more papers and so forth. So you have months and months of work that you're putting in, and you're reading multiple papers, you know, hundreds of papers in the process. How do you then know, okay, this was the paper I read in February, it's December now, and what was that paper about? I remember it to be useful, but now I've forgotten why I read it and what it was trying to say. And so in order to avoid this, you should use reference managers, not only for what I will later demonstrate, but also to organize your reading in a way that it makes life easy for you when you're trying to write and retrieve literature that you've reviewed in the past, right? So these are the 7 odd tips that I would give to anyone who wants to read and assimilate scientific literature effectively. Now, having read enough, I think you need a critical concentration almost of information in your repository before you can start writing, right? And writing can be very intimidating. I find writing intimidating. I don't think everybody finds it intimidating. but it's something that you have to do because you have to communicate your results and you have to document what you do. So writing is very important. Now, the question is, can it be made simpler? And the answer is yes, it can be made simpler. And so the general wisdom on writing is as follows. I would say that one must read extensively to write well. And this is for a few reasons. The first reason, of course, is that to write well, you need to know what it is that you should, you need to know how it is that you should be writing. So familiarity with the parlance of the field, what are the kind of terms they use, what are the commonly used phrases and sentences, and how do people present their results if they're using a certain technique. And there are so many things that are very particular to a field of work. And these are the kind of things that you can only learn by coming across them multiple times. So every time you read a paper, you'll notice something. And this is what leads to accumulated information, experience, if you will. So once you start reading extensively, what you develop is a familiarity with the way things are done in your field. And that's very important because then you will be able to reproduce. If you know how something's done, you will be able to reproduce it and you will be able to do it. So it's important to look at, it's how you look up sample essays and model answers before you write your own answers. Having some reference always helps you write your own things. So that's one reason, just gaining familiarity. The other reason is gaining a perspective on what the field has managed to accomplish. So where does your work fit in the larger context, right? And this perspective is very important when you try to build your own argument. When I was describing the anatomy of a paper, of a research article, the introduction, I said, why can't the world do without your study? What is it that sets your work apart? And that is where this perspective on your work in the larger context of the field is important, because you will then be able to argue, you know what, this is what has been done, but what I am doing is different because of reasons X, Y, Z. And this is what makes my work important. Now, once you've read a paper, I did say that making notes is useful. So you've read a paper, you've summarized the takeaway message from a paper. So you suppose the paper that I sent on antimicrobial resistance being ancient, that paper. The key takeaway message from that paper is that there was metagenomic analysis done on samples from permafrost, and the key finding was that permafrost samples that were thousands of years old still have these genes that are responsible or that confer antibiotic resistance properties to bacteria. So that's the takeaway message. Now, you can write a simple sentence that says metagenomic analysis, and we will come to this later. So you could say metagenomic analysis of permafrost samples from thousands of years old, blah, blah, blah. And that's your takeaway message. If you read a paper try to summarize what you've learned from that paper in a single sentence. And this sentence is very useful when it comes to constructing your own paragraphs of, your thesis or your paper or whatever. You know exactly what it is from what you've read that struck you or that seems important and relevant to your work. So you wrote it down. And then all you had to do was take it and fit it into a paragraph. I hope that's making sense. The key to scientific writing, after all is said and done, is that you have to balance a formal style of writing with precise vocabulary, which is specific to your field, which is why reading extensively is extremely important. Because if you don't read enough in your field, then you wouldn't know what the vocabulary is. And then the problem that arises is that you're trying to say something, but you're not saying it with the correct words. And so other researchers in the field cannot fully appreciate what you're trying to say. So precise vocabulary, simple phrases, the word bhasha jal in Hindi. You don't have to, create a bhasha jal. It has to be very simple because remember, researchers from across the world, they come from different linguistic backgrounds. Now, we might write in English, but that doesn't mean that English is everyone's first language, including ours. It's not our first language. So how do you make sure that people who do not speak English as their first language can also understand what you're trying to say when you're writing in English? The answer is just keep it simple. There is no need to use fancy, big words or fancy, complex, compounded sentence structures. Short sentences are fine. Simple phrases are fine. Vocabulary should be specific and precise. And that's how you ensure that your writing is effective. It's able to communicate exactly what you wanted to communicate, and not and it's also comprehensible. Other people understand what you're saying. And the last thing I'd say is that reading and writing, there's circular iterative processes. You read and then you write. And then while you're writing, you realize, oh, I need to read more about this so that I can write this in a better way. And so it sort of feeds into itself. It's a cycle. So they both push each other along. And that is why, even if you don't write continuously, many of us don't, right? We don't need to write. We only need to write when we need to submit a thesis or submit a report or, write an assignment or whatever. But it's very important to keep reading so that you know what to write, right? It's very important to have something in your repository up here that you can use to construct a skeleton. You need to have something to say before you start saying it, is essentially what I'm trying to impress upon you here. So reading is absolutely critical to any scholarly process. Now, having understood what reading is and how do you read and how do you write and what is it that a paper is trying to communicate, what are the different parts of a paper, how do you go about the process, blah, blah. We come to citations. We come to the point of why we're here. When you're writing a paper, anything and everything you state must be cited. The only things that are exempt from this are the claims that you are making in a paper on the basis of your own experimental results. Can I turn a paper without citing all sources? No, you can't. So, for example, if you say, I have only 100 rupees in my wallet right now, you would have to cite a study that has opened your wallet, searched it thoroughly, and concluded that you actually only have 100 rupees. And that's how you would, say, I have only 100 rupees in my wallet right now. So the only way you can, in scientific literature, the only way you can know for sure that something is reliable is by citing it and by associating what you've said to a study that empirically, experimentally shows or validates your claim, right? Now, the general anatomy of a citation is also important to understand for a few reasons that I will come to later. So these are citations from the two articles that I circulated. The first article being antibiotic resistance is ancient. If you look at the citation, what's going on here? You have the author list. So there are 3 people who are named here, and then you see the word et al. Et al. Et al. Means that there are more than 3 authors in this study, but because of space restriction, you can't name everybody. So you only name the primary authors and then just say et al., which means that there are more than these primary authors that you have named. So that's how you say that it was a big team that did the work that went into this particular research article. Next thing is the title of the paper. So that is very straightforward. Then you have journal information. So looking at the thing that I have, the bit that I have underlined in green, you have Nature, which is the name of the journal. You have 477 there, and all this 457 to 4. So 477 is the issue. So there have been 477 issues of the journal that were published maybe this year, maybe over. So this is information that the journal includes. It's the name of the journal, page numbers, issue, number of the volume number. There could be many details that people include. And of course, the year of publication, which is very important. And then you have something called the digital object identifier. Now, back in the day when journals weren't online, so you had physical paper journals, you didn't really have a digital object identifier because it was all printed on paper. But since journals have become online, every article that's published has a digital object identifier, a DOI, assigned to it, which is a unique number. Now, it's possible for there to be ambiguity if the titles of papers are similar, or if the author names are similar, or if similar papers were published in the same year. So there are potential sources of ambiguity. If you don't have a DOI, if you don't have a unique number that you can assign to a paper. But because everything is now digital and there is a digital record for everything, it's possible to have these unique numbers, which makes it really easy for you to look up a paper, because you know that this is a unique number that is only associated with a certain paper. So you don't even need the title. You don't need to know the names of the authors. You don't need to know what year it was published in. all you really need to look up a paper nowadays is the DOI, and that's it. Well, so that's what a citation looks like, and it must now be obvious to you what a citation is doing. It's basically saying, this is the paper that I am referring to when I say that X is causing Y, or you know, if you make any statement in your paper and you're citing something, you're saying that I can say what I'm saying because XYZ have done these experiments and shown that what I'm saying is true. So it's referring to previous work to substantiate a claim that you're making in the process of saying what you want to say based on your own experimental results, so that someone down the line can cite what you're publishing as proof for what they are trying to say, and so on. So you see, there is a continuity to scientific research. We all keep citing each other, and there is a procession almost of studies that build on each other. So, referring to literature and citing papers properly is absolutely essential for the continuity to be maintained over hundreds of years of research activities in a field. So it is very important to do this properly, is what I'm trying to say. And what I would also add here is that the way these elements of a citation are ordered, and the different ways in which you would write the names of the authors, for instance, or the name of the journals, or the titles, or if you would have more information or less information in the citation itself, is referred to as the style of citation. So as I will show you later, you can have different styles in which you cite. The objective, again, is to be able to find the paper that is being referred to, right? So that is still the objective. But different journals and different publications have different preferences of how they want this crucial information. Authors, title of the paper, year of publication, DOI, whatever, there can be all kinds of information that you would want to include in a citation. But the order in which you include this information and the way in which you present this information can be different from one journal, say Nature, to another journal, say Science or Cell, or you name it. And every journal has a preferred style of citation. And when you write a paper and you want to submit that paper to a particular journal, you need to take into account their preference of citation styles. And this is very tricky because different journals want different things. And if you are trying to cite hundreds of papers, it's very difficult to reformat every citation because journal A wants a different style, but journal B wants a completely different style again, and so forth. So it's just not practical to do this manually. Now, I know this will sound like very obsessive behavior. And, scientists are obsessive people. But like I was saying, if you're trying to, write something and you're citing 116 odd papers in your thesis or in your research article, it's very, very difficult to reformat all these citations. And more than that, can you imagine being accurate about all this information manually is such a struggle. You're bound to make a mistake in mentioning the names of the authors, or making sure that all the journals are mentioned in a consistent way, or they're named, the years come in the same kind of brackets. Like it's a whole can of worms, and doing this manually is just not practical, which is why you need reference managers. And reference managers, in addition to helping you organize your citations, can help you organize, like I was saying earlier, your reading, and they can help you make folders in which you can put your papers, so that okay, these are papers that talk about a particular technique. These are papers that talk about a particular bacterium. These are papers that talk about how they have, it's just very easy to keep track of what you're reading, what you're writing, how you're writing things with reference managers. There are questions. Are popular science articles recommended when we are researching to write for literature review, since research articles and even review articles to some extent are particularly difficult to understand? Oh, this is a very good question. Would you recommend starting with popular science? Absolutely. Absolutely. I would definitely recommend. And, when I was saying earlier that if you are interested in a particular area, there are all these articles that often have the link to a paper in them, embedded in the article. But what the article is doing is just providing a digest. So the article just says, oh, researchers from the University of Cambridge found that, X causes Y, and this is very cool because blah, blah, blah. And then they'll say, if you want to read more about the study, you can refer to the original paper. So they'll often give you a link to the paper. So it's very, very important to, start with popular science, because it just makes it so much easier for you to access the information that, as Nandini has pointed out, is often cryptically worded, and it's not the most lucid, the writing style in academic literature. It's not the most fluent. Often you do struggle with, oh, this is so boring, it makes my brain hurt, why can't the sentences be simpler to understand? So it's very, very important, I think, to have popular science as your starting point. And so you can make sense of what the formal article is trying to say. So the questions, there are many, and I think we can just refer to each question. We can just look at each question later, but I think now we should actually start with the hands-on training. And for that, I will now move to stop the presentation. And we will move to the, yes, okay, here we are. Right. Can everybody see my screen now?
Pooja, can go for the slideshow. Is it possible?
Slide as in, because I want to show my browser now.
Okay, it's okay.
I want to show my browser now, right?
Okay. Yeah, it's okay now, yes.
Yes. So the first thing you do when you're trying to So let's start with this paper, Antibiotic Resistance is Ancient. Suppose you wanted to cite this paper. Remember, I was telling you, you can summarize the takeaway message from a paper in a single sentence. If you can see my screen now, you will see that I have opened a Word document. And in the Word document, you will see this sentence that I've written about this paper. And the sentence is, microbial antibiotic products and antimicrobial resistance are believed to have similarly timed evolutionary origins. Now, this sentence is mine. So I've written this. And I don't need to insert a citation just yet. Metagenomic analyses of 30,000-year-old permafrost samples, for instance, have revealed an extensive dissemination of resistance elements across ecosystem. Now, what does that remind you of? It reminds you of this paper. So what I've done is I've read this particular paper and I've summarized the takeaway message and I've written a sentence. And now I want to insert a citation for this paper in my Word document right next to this word ecosystems. How do we do this? Firstly, we open, okay, hold on, how can I do this better? We open the page on which the journal article is there. And you can now see that there is this option here, cite this article. If you click on this, it shows you what I had shown you as a screenshot earlier. You can click on download citation. Now, when you do this, it allows you to download the citation for this paper, which has a unique DOI, and that DOI is mentioned in the file name. This is a RIS file, that is the format. So we will save this RIS file like that. This is one way of doing it. What we can now do with this RIS file is we can open Mendeley desktop, which I had asked all of you to download. Are you able to see Mendeley? I believe so. And then you say, there is a button here. You can say import or you can say add, whatever. I like to do it this way. You go to file, you say import, and do you remember this is the file format, RIS, Research Information Systems.RIS. So you click on this, and then you go to where you had saved your citation, RIS file, you open it, and it is added to your library. Now, remember, I was trying to tell you earlier how you can make folders and organize all your citations and references. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a folder for our little demonstration right now. So I'm going to click on this and you will see that a new folder has appeared. Now, I don't want to make a new folder within that folder. So I will remove this folder because that's not where I want it to be. I want to make, so if I do, no, that's not it either. Make a... Why is it doing that? That shouldn't be. Hold on. So a quick question. Are people doing this while I'm doing it as well? Do people have their computers
They have
open?
laptops, Pooja, with them. Yes.
Haji. So people are following what I'm doing, right?
Yes. Is it working fine? Pooja, is it working fine?
What is working fine?
I mean, whatever you want to show.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Everything is okay. Everything is okay.
Yes. Students are responding on the chat that they're using it.
हाँ, ठीक है, ma'am.
Okay. And Pooja, try to be a bit slow. Have a flow so that students can try with you.
Yes, yes. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yes.
So I guess my first question is, were the students able to download? Did everybody follow what I did here?
Yes. Okay. So I would like to ask, please put in your chat box, all the students were able to download Mendeley in your desktop? Yes, the answer is coming as yes. Okay. One of the questions comes, I am unable to open the .ris file. Nandini, I will try to unmute you and you can ask the question yourself because we want this to be as interactive as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Nandini, please ask.
Yeah, I have.
Hello, Nandini.
Hi, Dee. So I was trying to open the .res file, and this was
How
the
were you
message.
trying to open it, Nandini?
No, I downloaded the citation, and the citation is in my computer, and then I clicked on it, and the message that is displayed is, this file does not have an app associated with it for performing this action. So I think I would need EndNote or something to open it, and
You just need Mendeley to open it.
I do have Mendeley and I have been using it for some time now, but I haven't been able to open the citations.
Okay, so if you do what I'm doing now, so you go to File, you say Import, and you say RIS file. Do you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see that.
Right, so if you do that, and then you select your RIS file, and you say Open.
Right, okay. I'll just
Yeah, just give it a try. Yeah, just give it a try.
Many students are having this problem. Same problem, RIS file is not opening. Same problem, Antarlina is also saying that. But
yes, I can see it.
Something, but we'll fix that for them. Yes.
Okay. So
yeah, I've done it. Okay.
Okay.
Right?
Fine. Yep.
So I think I understand what the problem is.
Pooja,
yes, ma'am.
Antarlina is saying to please explain it once again.
I will again. That's what I'm doing. So I just wanted to. So what I want to show again is that you go to a journal article, you download its citation. We did that, download citation, RIS file, save it in a particular folder. You know where it is, right? Now you go to Mendeley. So you go to Mendeley and you have your unsorted references. You can see that I have opened the unsorted folder. Now, if you wanted to create another folder, you just say demonstration or whatever it is that you want to name your folder. So now you're in a different folder, and this will allow you to organize all your references. Right? Or have people made a folder? Can I get a yes, maybe? Were people able to make a folder?
Please reply on the chat box. Yes, it's coming.
Yes. Very good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to, the RIS file that we downloaded, we're going to add it to the demonstration folder. And how we do this is import RIS, select the RIS file, say open, voila. Okay, now this is done. And the next thing to do is to open Word. Now I would like you to, you're seeing my screen, so you can see the message. So you can, you can see the sentence that I have typed. Now, if you could quickly type the sentence in your Word files as well, and then we will insert the citation once you have done that.
Pooja, we'll be doing this with multiple citations?
Yes, we will do one more.
Okay. Okay.
And if people can just message done or yes or something on the chat once they have typed them done. Excellent. Very good. Now, what we do, if you have already downloaded the Word plugin, then when you click on references, you will see Mendeley Cite with Mendeley. How many people can see this? Can everybody see this?
Respond on the chat box, please.
Able to see.
Okay.
Very good. This is working out quite well, actually. I'm very impressed because often this is problematic. This is great. Very good. Now to cite, we just click at the end of the sentence before the full stop. Go to Mendeley Cite, click on it. It might ask you to sign in the way it's asking me to sign in. So it's very easy to sign in. It loads all your references. Now you look for the reference that you want to find.
Pooja, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Dr. Neha Singh is saying that she's having some problem. Neha, I'm going to unmute you. So you say your point, please. Yes, Neha, please do that.
Pooja, I'm not getting the icon on the Word toolbar itself.
I see. That could be because
I have not.
You haven't. Did you install the plugin for Word?
Yes, I did. I can see it as a separate toolbar, but not. Okay.
But that's that shouldn't be a problem. Can you click on the separate toolbar then?
All right. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. So yes, I think it depends on what sort of what the version of Word is that you're using, because different versions of Word may, display the plugin in different ways. I think that's what the issue is. Yeah.
Okay,
Pooja, what I'm going to do is.
Thank you, Ruchi ma'am.
Pooja, what I'm going to do is, for the next few minutes, I'm going to unmute everybody. So if anybody is having a problem, they can just and I will be in control. So I'm going to.
Dr. Ruchi, that's a good idea, because then even Pooja will come to know what are the basic difficulties some of them are facing.
Yes,
exactly. I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah. So just do that for 5 minutes.
I've done that, ma'am. So anybody can now unmute themselves, and if you have any problem, first write your problem in the chat, and then you can speak to Pooja. So we can have it as interactive as possible.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ruchi. Thanks.
So now what I'm trying to do, okay, there are problems, I think. Done. Inserted the citation in Word document. Ma'am, could you go, please? Could
Little
not follow
slow.
afterward.
Little
Yes.
slow.
Yes.
Antralina.
Is there a preferred citation style used universally? The answer to that is no. Different journals would specify what their preference is. So if you're writing an article for a particular journal, then you have to look up what their preference is. But if you are writing a thesis and you don't have any specific instructions from your university about what style to use, then you can just use whatever you like. So I personally like the nature style very much, which is you get a number for each citation. And I find it very easy to follow numbered citations as opposed to in-text citations. I will show you what that difference is basically. But before we get to that, I want to now look for the citation we've just added. So this one, I think what I need to do is sync. So when you do that, everything that you have imported into your desktop app gets synced to the cloud storage. And so now I will be able to look up. Oh, why is that? Well, sometimes this happens. You're just unable to find the citation that you want to. There it is. So there you have it. And you just say insert one citation. Okay. So you see, Nandini, wasn't it? Yes, Nandini, you were asking me what the style, is there a universal style? Now this, what you see here, DaCosta et al. 2011, this is the American Psychological Association 7th edition citation style. Is this visible? You know, on the right-hand side of my screen. Now, what you want to do, if you can repeat what to do after that, would be easier for me. You open the citation Mendeley, that's great. Satra. Now, what you have to do is after you've opened it in Mendeley and you've imported it in your resume share. When you've opened the citation in Mendeley and you've imported it in the folder that you want to import it in, you've created a new folder, you've imported your citation, please press sync so that you can, yes, please press sync here. Do you see it now? If you press sync, then what will happen is everything that you've added gets updated, and you will then be able to see this reference in your Word plugin. Okay, so all we've done is, ma'am, open site, if you can, yes, ma'am, synced it. Excellent. Okay, so now we go back to Word. And we have all I did, Satra, was then click here and say, you know, I've looked up the word ancient, and that gave me the paper, and then I just selected it.
दूध रख दो उसका गैस पे.
Sorry?
आप नहीं रखोगे.
Please mute. Please mute yourself if you want to speak to somebody else. Thank you so much. Yeah. Pooja, you can continue.
Ruchi, just a minute. I'm just barging in. Just all the participants, if you have any question pertaining to what's happening right now, and you have some, please ask it. Otherwise, Pooja will go ahead with the next step. Anybody who has a doubt, please ask right now.
Pooja, one question is there from Apratim. Ma'am, not able to download the citation. Actually, I have the PDF file. From there, how I will get the citation?
Right.
Okay, another question is, ma'am, open the citation in Mendeley. If you can repeat what to do after that, it would be easier for me. Yes, ma'am, synced it. It's okay. So, and ma'am, the icon of Mendeley is invisible in the word reference toolbar.
Yeah. This is similar to Neha Singh's problem, actually.
Yes.
Dr. Neha Singh was able to, work from the separate toolbar. Dr. Neha?
Yes, from an independent icon, actually.
Yeah. Hello? Dr. Neha Singh? Okay, so if there are no questions anymore.
Pooja, then you can continue. Yes. Pooja, are you able to hear me? Okay.
I think I'm unmuted. There are questions I was able to insert. So is there anybody who is still unable to get the
Hello, ma'am.
word? Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes.
Sorry to disturb you, ma'am. Ma'am, actually, I have actually downloaded the document and the READS file in Mendeley.
Yes.
I have opened it, but when I'm opening the word, I'm unable to insert it.
Why is that? Can you see the?
There is insert citation option.
Yes.
Yes, but
there is no Mendeley site.
Yes, there is Mendeley site with icon. I'm using Word 10.
So if you click on Mendeley site, what happens?
The Mendeley is opening again.
Mendeley desktop is opening again.
No, now it is saying that help isn't working, but you can still go to office.com to get the latest and greatest article, videos, and blah, blah, blah. Like this.
Can you... Sometimes there are issues.
Ma'am, if you can repeat what to do in Word again, I will just try it at the time.
What to do in Word again? Okay. So what you need to do in Word is very simple if you have the plugin working. And from what you're saying, it seems like your plugin isn't working. Right? Is your plugin working? So do you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Do you see the Mendeley site, the one that?
Yes, ma'am. That icon is not showing in my Word.
Okay, so then
there is mark citation or like this? No, Mendeley site.
And what about other tabs? Have you checked add-ins? Have you checked?
I'm checking.
Yes,
I'm checking,
there was. Okay, Dr. Neeru Bhagat wants to know how to sync.
Repeat for others. Repeat for others, actually, she's saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you sync by this button here. Can everybody see it? This button. You just click on this button and it syncs everything. Mendeley plugin or add-in works only in MS Office 2013 and upwards. Yes, that is true. Yes.
Geeta Mehra has given this statement that you will have to have 2013 and above.
So I think people were able to add the citation.
Miss Bhattacharji, Arkisman Bhattacharji, he said that citation was added. Nisha said citation is added. Brishti said citation is added.
Excellent. So the next thing that we want to look at is the style in which the citation is added. I have 2019, but the plugin isn't available. Not really sure if that should be happening. because even if you have the latest version of Word, then there is no reason for the plugin to not work unless it hasn't been installed properly. So if you go to the website, they have some instructions that you have to follow to install it properly. And if it's not installed properly, then there are troubleshooting steps as well. So Harshita, I would recommend you to just, the interface was different on MS Office 2020. Ah, great. Very good. Right. So while you guys figure that out, I think I'll just move ahead. And what is the citation style that I should follow? Good question, Nisha. That's what I'm coming to now. So this citation style, if you click on citation style in the Mendeley Cite plugin, as I have done, you can see what the current citation style is. So this is the American Psychological Association 7th edition citation style, but you can change the citation style to, say, Nature. And if you select Nature or any other citation style and say update citation style, that's what happens. Did everybody catch that? So you see, that is what has happened. Again, you can change it by clicking on something, say update citation. Oh, that didn't work. There you go, right? So that's how you change citation styles. And I guess what I was trying to say earlier was that how your choice of citation style is very, very, it's a personal preference really, unless stated. If you're writing an article for a journal and the journal says we want a certain citation style, then you know exactly what to do. So you can find it in this list, or you can just look for more styles and basically you'll have to download the style from Mendeley's website, but it's possible to use other styles than the ones that are mentioned in the list that I just showed you. Everybody has figured it out. Excellent. And basically, the idea is that there are some citation styles in which you will get a citation, an in-text citation. That's what I call it. And so you'll have the name of the authors and you'll have the year of publication. And just to make it look nicer, I'm just going to insert a space here, okay? And then, as you must have seen in papers and in a thesis, at the very end, you have a bibliography. And how you insert a bibliography is you go to More and you say, insert bibliography. And you say, continue. And that's what it does. Okay. Now, my problem with styles like this is that what it does is the bibliography is in an alphabetical order based on the last name of the first author. This can be a little, it's a lot of trouble, finding the name of the author in the bibliography. Suppose you want to look up a paper, right? What will you do? You will look at, okay, there's the name DaCosta. You'll go find DaCosta in the bibliography. And then you'll copy the citation, Google it. But when you have something like, if you have a citation style like Nature, then you get a number. And I personally find numbers easier to look in a bibliography. So if I didn't have a specified preferred citation style, I would personally always go for something like Nature that gives me numbers instead of names of authors, so that I can look up the number in the bibliography. Does that make sense?
Pooja, sorry to interrupt you. I think so it would be much more clear if you cite one more article with a different alphabet starting, so they can appreciate what you are talking about. I think so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
okay, thank you.
Yes. I'll do that. But before I do that, I will now show you another way in which you can import a citation. And that is where the web importer plugin that I had asked all of you to install comes into play. So we will now go to the other article that I had asked all of you to flip through, which is this one, distinguishing between resistance, persistence, tolerance to antibiotic treatment. So how can you do this? This is the importer plugin. If you click on it, sorry, it's loading. And what this importer does is it finds all the papers that it can see on a web page, and it gives you options for all of them. So all these other papers that you see here are actually the articles that were cited by this main article. So I don't care about the other papers. I just want to import the citation for this main article. So I'm going to, I'm going to select this like that. And do you remember we had made folders? I'm going to select the folder in which I want to import the citation to. Don't want to import it to bacterial endospores. Want to import it to the demonstration folder. Have people managed to do this? Can I get a yes in the chat if you can?
Please reply.
Perfect. So what you do is you select the folder that you want to add the citation to, say add, and then it does its little trick.
Please repeat once. It will be easier. Yeah.
Yes. So
coming in chat. Yeah.
This is your article. You can either do what we did with the previous article, which was to say, cite this article, download citation, download the RIS file, and import it to Mendeley Web. The other easier way of doing it is to use the Mendeley Web Importer plugin. If you click on it, it'll identify the paper that we are viewing at the moment, and it will ask you if you want to import this citation. You need to select it, and you can then select a folder in which you want to import the citation to. So I've selected the demonstration folder, and then I've just said add. I can't do it again because I've already done it, but I hope it's clear now. Or do people want me to repeat this again? Does anybody want me to repeat this again? Got it. Okay. Everybody's, yeah, good. Now, what do we do next? We do the same thing. We go to our Word file, and then we say, what can we say? We can say that for bacteria, persistence, resistance, and tolerance phenotypes have been described have been described. Have been differentiated from each other. I mean, obviously, this is not the best sentence ever, but it'll have to do. And now you just go back to references, and we may have to reload because we've added a new citation. Oh, yeah, okay, it's fine. And oh, very nice. It's come up. So you select it, insert citation, and there you go. Now, what I was trying to say earlier was that if I were to change the style, this is what will happen. And actually, Uma ma'am's idea was very good because this really demonstrates it quite effectively. So even though DaCosta was cited first and the Browner et al. Paper was cited second, because this citation style arranges things in alphabetical order, the order has been reversed. So what would have been one in the Nature style is now second, which makes no sense because you would want to arrange your citations in the same order in which they appear in the text, because then you'll be able to go back and look at it much more easily. Also, it's possible for you to cite something in the first paragraph of your paper and also cite it again in your method section. And if you do that, then you'd rather have a number so you can cite one. And after you've cited the 26th paper, you can again cite one. And the reader would know, okay, you're referring to the paper that you had cited in the first paper, in the first paragraph, because the number is the same. Do you see? So that is why I prefer the Nature style, because then, did you see what just happened?
Pooja, we are not able to see your Word file. It's just the...
Oh.
Yeah. Because there is a message also in the chat. Like, you can, yeah, now it's visible. Now it's visible.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So sorry. Gosh. Right. So let me do this again. What I was trying to say was that if you select a different citation style, what happens is that the order is flipped, because in this particular citation style, the authors are listed in an alphabetical order. So even though DaCosta et al. Was cited first, in the bibliography, the reference appears second. And that is a bit confusing for me personally. So I would prefer a citation style like this, in which I get a number instead of the names of the authors, so that the citations in the bibliography are listed in the order in which they appear in the text. Okay. So this is how you insert citations. So there are two ways of doing it. You can either import a RIS file into Mendeley and then do the whole thing that I did with the first paper, or what I did with the second paper, which was to just use the web importer and directly cite in Word. And yes, that is how you use Mendeley. Are there any questions? I mean, there are questions. At the moment, my laptop is not working. How shall I connect you on social media for help on this type of citation? That's Subhanshu's question. That's a very I can always be reached on email. So I can share my email address with all of you, and you can just send me an email if you ever have questions. And at this point, I think I'll just go back to the older questions so that we can be more systematic about this.
I will be a bit, more careful on this. We will share our email address with them, and then they can direct their questions through us. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Whatever you
other
think.
route
Right?
is
ma'am,
the
maybe National Science. Sorry, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. National Science Series only, ma'am.
Yeah, National Science Series. They can write the questions there, and then we can always forward.
And the other thing is the Facebook page. You can visit it, and we are going to put all the snippets of today's talk, the workshop, and you can put your comments there, and which can be shared later.
And you keep on liking our Facebook page also. So,
Pooja, it will not be very wise to share email ID with everybody, right? Here. Okay. Thanks.
Yes. So please post your questions. I'm going through the chat now. I'm just looking at previous questions. So, of course, Nandini's very good question on.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
Because I have added it in the web importer, and then it's showing that download if add PDF is available, if available. Is it showing?
Yes.
Now what should I do? Please you repeat.
So you're here, aren't you?
Yes, exactly.
So you've did you click on add?
Add to Mendeley here is showing. Okay, yeah, I have added.
So, and is your add button gray now?
Yes.
Okay. So now what you do is you just go back to the Word file.
Okay.
And you go back to this references, the search bar. Can you see the, you might have to reload the.
Yes. Okay.
So that you can see the new paper. Can you see the new paper?
Reference. Yes, ma'am.
Now you just do what you did for the first paper. So you just select, you just click somewhere, click at the end of the sentence and select your citation like that and say insert one citation.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Where did the chat feature go? There it is. So Nandini's question was popular science articles. So we did talk about it. Would you recommend starting with popular science? Definitely would recommend. But you have to be careful about what kind of popular science you read. You should read, Nature News and Comments and Science Magazine. And there are many very good magazines, New Scientist, The Scientist, Scientific American. There are many Indian magazines as well that are very good. So again, it's very important to select the right kind of popular science platform, because science communication, especially popular science communication, is something that people can really horribly mess up. So you don't want to be reading bad material. How can we, so this is a question from Anuj Kumar, how can we elevate the quality of research as we're surrounded by hundreds of thousands of similar research works around the globe? I think the answer to that, Anuj, would be there of course are hundreds of thousands of people doing research around the world, but you can still carve a niche for yourself. And how you do that is you, again, read as much as you can. The only way to know what other people are doing and what hasn't been done is to know what other people are doing. And the only way to know what other people are doing is to read about what they're doing. So you need to be on top of the literature in your particular field. And once you know what the general direction of the field is. You know what people are doing, and that is where you can, as an individual, innovate. And you can say, okay, if people in the field are, fixated on a certain aspect of this problem, I would like to approach this same problem from a different perspective. I might want to use a different technique. I might want to look at other systems that interact with the system that people are studying very well, so that there is a known element and there is another unknown element that I can contribute to understanding a bit better. So the short answer to your question is read, read, read. And when you read more, you know what others are doing. And so you can avoid what others are doing and do something of your own that is unique. Then there is a question from Sadiksha Gupta, who says how to cite basic information or facts, say basic things like plants have been used to make herbal medicines. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Do we even need to cite such facts? This is a very good question. The answer to that is humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes. It does not need to be cited. Plants have been used to make herbal medicines. So plants have been used to make herbal medicines. A statement like that could be substantiated by a review article, for instance, in which the writers have documented all the different traditional medicines, traditional medicinal cultures in the world. And so that article in some ways just substantiates the claim that, plants have been used for making herbal medicines. So that is just one thing you could do to add more citations, I guess, but it's not important. But this is a very good question. There are some things that are so well established. So textbook facts don't need to be cited. You are allowed to say things without citing them. For instance, when I said microbial antibiotic products and antimicrobial resistance are believed to have similarly timed evolutionary origins, I did not put a citation at the end of this, because this is just a sentence that I have written that I will then support with further citations, but that in itself doesn't need to be cited. So if you say humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, that's fine. You don't need to cite this. But what you say after that needs to be cited if it is something that has some study associated with it. So if you were to, for instance, say humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes and in certain forms of cancer, there are chromosomal aberrations or genetic instability that leads to fusion of you know what I'm trying to say. So then in that case, you will have a study to cite to substantiate that claim. But some basic facts don't need to be cited. Then from RTS, as for a beginner, is it advisable to read the research articles based on our major? Yes, absolutely. And like I was saying earlier, Aarti, I cannot say to you that you will understand everything. You will not, but you need to keep reading and you will just get better at it with time. Harini, hi ma'am, I'm a UG student. Could you please suggest some articles based on bioinformatics? I could not, because I am not a bioinformatician myself. But Google is your friend, Harini. Like, the thing is, these days, you can, as a layperson, access so much scientific literature online. All you need to do is Google. For bioinformatics, I would actually recommend starting with a simple textbook. There are many well-written textbooks on bioinformatics because papers, research articles are a bit too complex, I would say, for an undergraduate. So you should start with the basics. Read about what is a blast search, how do you do a blast search, or what is the blast algorithm doing, what is a heuristic method, and so forth. So for bioinformatics textbooks or long review articles, don't start reading research articles just yet.
Pooja, there is a question from a YouTube viewer
Yes.
that how you can cite this websites.
Very good question. How can you cite websites?
And secondly, they are asking for, is it MATLAB is useful for referencing styles?
Sorry, what is useful?
MATLAB, M-A-T-L-A-B.
Oh, MATLAB does something. MATLAB does something very different. MATLAB is for data visualization and programming. MATLAB has nothing to do with reference managing.
Okay.
Yes.
So they are just asking for, can you just show how to cite this and this websites?
My follow-up question to that would be, what sort of website do you want to cite?
Probably they are, because generally students cite from the Wikipedia or other sources, so they are probably interested in all kinds of websites.
So Pooja, it could be a web page also, a web page.
Yeah. Yes. Now, the thing is, and I have a question about this in the quiz that I have made for all of you. What can you cite is a very important question. Now, when you're writing a research article, you should only cite things that have been peer reviewed by other experts in the field. If you're making an assignment, even in an assignment, I would say that what's good practice is to cite sources of information that are the most reliable and the most authoritative. It is possible to cite a web page, and for that you need to, I will open my Mendeley desktop app to show you how it's possible to add citations. So you can add entries manually. And here, if you can see my screen, you can say there are all kinds of things that you can add. Do you see this? A web page, a working paper, a thesis, a television broadcast, newspaper article, magazine article. Now, you can cite all these things, but the question is, should you? And the answer to that is probably not. You should stick to peer-reviewed content that has gone through that process, that formal process of someone with expertise looking at that piece of work critically and saying, okay, this is something that you could do, this is wrong, this is correct. That is the process of peer review. So if you did want to add, if you wanted to cite a web page, this is the way to do it. And so you'll have to create the entry manually. And you can say what the title is, authors, year of publication, date that you access this on. You can add the URL and so forth. Whether you should do it is very context dependent. You wouldn't, for instance, cite a web page in a research article. You just wouldn't do it. But you can do it, I guess, if you're doing an assignment in college.
Maybe Pooja, something like WHO site or CDC site, sometimes when you have to give data related to disease or
If you had to do that, that is a very good question. You should ideally cite the report. So when these web pages are created by WHO, CDC, and all these health organizations, they're often referring to an original report or some sort of a document that has been prepared by the organization. And input and information from those reports is then picked up and put on the web pages. So if I can actually show you an example. So in my master's thesis, for instance, I think everybody will be able to see this. Here, I have cited the WHO report. So I've said, according to the 2018 edition of the Global Tuberculosis Report published by the World Health Organization, blah, blah, blah. And if you were to look at the citation for this, which is this one, that's how I've cited it. So it's World Health Organization, the Global Health TB report. That's the name of the report. 270, so this is the 277th report the WHO has published. It was published in 2018, and the DOI is ISBN because it is a document. It has an ISBN number associated with it. So that is how you would cite a report. And to answer your question, ma'am, this I think is and this is how it's done formally. You would not cite the WHO website or a web page. You would cite the report that has
definitely.
material.
I thought the student wanted to know that, like, if there is a site like WHO or CDC, because they often refer to that. So it's like maybe they are getting confused with that. So I wanted that to be clarified.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Pooja,
I hope. Yes, ma'am.
I had a question. Like in case of food, people write many blogs, right? So when we are citing a blog, is there a format, and are we supposed to refer the date also when we saw it, right?
Yes. So, ma'am, as I was showing you here, hold on, let me share my screen properly. So here we are. If you go to add and say add entry manually, you can add things like, you can add a web page. You can add a journal article, a magazine article. A generic entry would be something that could be a blog post. But again, I would encourage people to think: is there a more credible source of information than the blog post? Because it's possible that the blog post itself has another citation.
Right. Yes.
So the idea is
the date is important.
Date of access is very important. Yes. So if you go to
see the format for that, can we see any format for that?
Yes. So can everybody see this? There is the date accessed, and then you have the URL. So that's the link. Date access would be the day that you visited the link, and you can put the title of the blog post. You can put the name of the author here, and you can put the year there. And there you go. This is the rough format for a web page citation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Pooja, is there anything else left, or should we go for the questions in a more formal manner with you?
I think this is all I have to say. Yes, I was just going through the questions, but if you want to take over, please do.
Yeah. So we will take journal questions first, Pooja.
Yes.
How frequent must be the citations from one paper? Should every line be cited, or a paragraph based on the paper can be cited collectively? Or if many lines have to be cited, do we have to add the citation after every line?
It's a very good question, and it's also something that you will see in the quiz. I have asked you if it's possible to cite one paper multiple times. The answer to that is yes, you can cite one paper multiple times. And if you wanted to cite a section of that paper. So I can actually show this with an example. Again, I'm going to refer to my thesis. So bear with me while I put it up on the screen. So let's see. I have cited one entire paragraph from another paper and I have quoted it. So I've not cited it. Can you see this italicized text? The italicized text is just a direct, so I've cited them here. Tiberi et al. Summarize the present WHO guidelines on the treatment of drug-resistant TB cases in this manner. So you can, what you can do is you can take an entire section and quote it. This is not obviously encouraged all the time. You need to find the you need to find the right context in which this is okay to do. And this, in this case, it's okay to just pick up something and quote it as such, because this is what it is. These are the guidelines. So you just quote the guidelines, right? However, if you wanted to quote different sentences from the same paper, and if you're not doing it continuously, right? So if you have two sentences, you can you can cite the same paper in different parts of your manuscript. And what will happen is the reference manager will identify that it's the same paper that's appearing twice, but in different places, and it will sort the citations out. And I think there were other parts to that question. I had seen it. Have I answered everything, or do you want me to? Is there a, where did it go?
There are other questions also, Pooja.
Yes, ma'am. So if you could go to the next question. I think I've
a question. I mean, I'm combining 2-3 questions together.
Yes,
are UG students, allowed to write review articles?
Absolutely. Yes, why not? In fact, it's a very good learning exercise. Most undergraduates, it's the first thing they learn how to write a review article, because it allows you to actually read extensively. You know, you go through all the important papers in the field, and you get a sense for how people write and what is the trendy thing to do in the field and so forth. So review articles for undergraduates actually is a very good learning exercise.
And one more thing I would like to add is that there is no qualification as such to write a review article. Okay,
no.
You just need to do a lot of reading, and that is and that is the rule of the thumb. So this is it. Then the people actually are asking that for citing you just have to cite the parent article or other articles as well. If you are citing a particular statement, then are you citing the parent article or other articles as well?
When you say parent article, well, this is great because all these questions are in the quiz, so I'm effectively giving out all the answers, but this is great.
So Pooja, quiz is plagiarized actually, I think.
The answer to that question is it depends on what you're citing. So suppose you're citing a paper. So suppose you're using the technique of blue native polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis. It's called BN Page. And I just came up with it because I use it a lot these days. So if you were using BN Page in your experiments, which is a technique to look at protein complexes on a gel, then you would cite the very first paper in which the technique was first described. You would not cite the latest paper you read in which people happened to use blue cells. Because what you'll find is that since the technique was first reported in the early 90s, there are hundreds of papers that have used the technique in their own way. But when you cite the paper, you must cite the very first original paper in which the technique was described. And you shouldn't, so I guess the answer to your question is you must cite just the parent article when you're describing a very well-established technique or a well-established result. So similarly, if you were to mention, sorry, hello?
Pooja, it's okay. Some disturbance, yeah.
So for instance, if you were to mention some very key result, like, oh, the DNA has a double helical structure, then you would cite the 1953 original paper. You wouldn't cite all the other papers since that have used that have cited that paper. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. Another thing is, Pooja, what people are asking is that many times when we write very general information and check for plagiarism, it comes as plagiarized with many similar results. So then should we need to cite these informations as well?
Plagiarized with?
Yeah, so a bit different question. Maybe I need
to the thing is, are you copying and pasting from somewhere so as to, because if you're not copying and pasting and if you're writing your own thing, then you shouldn't get plagiarized content, because there are different kinds of plagiarism as well, right? So there are you can either directly copy and paste a big chunk of text, and so that would show up as plagiarized content. But if you are rephrasing things sufficiently, that is the way to do it. So if you read a paper, you summarize the takeaway message. When you do that, you have to write your own sentences, and then you must cite the original paper that you read and summarized in your own language. So it is possible to have some plagiarism. Unintentional plagiarism is, I guess, what you're asking about. And unintentional plagiarism is all right, because there are only so many words in the English language. So it's possible for you to phrase something in a similar way as compared to other people. But as long as you're citing the original source and you're not outrightly copying and pasting content without saying that you've done so. So for instance, what I showed you on my screen about the guidelines for anti-TB drug regimes, I did copy and paste a chunk of text, but then I italicized it to suggest that it was actually quoted directly. You see what I'm trying to say? Plagiarism, you can get hits on these plagiarism software, and you might get worried that, oh my god, sections of my paper are plagiarized. But you have to be careful about what that really means.
The question is, Pooja. Yes, ma'am.
There are few questions which are very basic, but they need to be addressed. One is by Ambika, the other is by Arnav, right? So,
yes, so I'm saying,
kindly take those also. Kindly take those.
Yes, yes, I will do
Thank
that.
you. Thank
Dr. Sunita has asked a question. I will ask that first. While citing a sentence from our old paper, can we use the same sentence or we need to change it?
You need to change it.
Okay. Pooja, another question is by Ambika. Is there any word limit for a research or a review article?
This is very dependent on the journal requirements. Often journals will have limits as to how many papers you can cite as well. But this was more of a problem when things were published on paper. So Nature, for instance, still has a hard copy version that they put out every week. But there are many journals that don't have a physical copy. Now, that means that space is no longer a constraint. So they can actually allow you to cite as many papers as you want, write as long an article as you want, or as they want. But this is something that journals specify. As for theses, again, you get a word limit from your university. And with PhD theses and master's theses, generally you don't have a limit on how many papers you can cite. But obviously review articles tend to have more citations than original research articles because of the nature of the article itself.
So 2 Arnabs, and they have asked different questions, Pooja. One is it mandatory to arrange references alphabetically?
No. In fact, like I was saying, I don't like doing that because it just makes it difficult for you to look up. So suppose you've come across a citation and you want to read that paper, you'll have to go down to the bibliography to find that paper. And if the bibliography is alphabetically arranged, then you have to go to the right part of the bibliography to find the paper, which is not as intuitive as finding references in the order in which they appear in the text. So if you've come across a reference which is numbered 1, you can just go to the bibliography and find reference number 1, and that's just more intuitive and easy to do. So there are certain referencing styles in which authors are listed alphabetically. So in that case, in the bibliography, citations don't appear in the order in which they appear in the text, but are arranged according to the alphabetical order of the author names. But that is not how all citation styles work. Different citation styles have different ways in which the bibliography is arranged. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, Pooja, thank you. The other Arnab is asking, not all articles have open access to them. So in that case, how to view such articles?
Very, very good question, Arnab. And now I'm going to tell you about something that is illegal, but it's something that all of us do. And that is to use Sci-Hub.
Pooja, excuse me. I just need to ask Ruchi ma'am, we are doing the live streaming of this. So can we talk about this here?
Ma'am, it's the dirty secret.
I know, but it's just that like we are being
we have said the word, we can go on with it now. Yeah. So we will just
Maybe once we stop the live streaming. So yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And another.
But you are right. This is a very big problem. We have paywalls, and often scientific literature is not freely accessible. And now some of us, when we go to university, we can get institutional access. So I'm sure the University of Delhi has access to certain journals, and I think your university must have some special subscriptions as well. So that is the legal way of doing it, using library resources in your university to access articles. But you and I mean, we all know how easy or difficult that is. So I'll leave it there.
The question is, since reading large articles becomes boring at times, so can we present a scientific article more in the form of graphs and figures than text? Like, are there any specific guidelines for that? Can we minimize text and maximize graphs and pie charts, etc.?
So there are certain journals that require you to present a graphical abstract of your work, but that is not a general practice. And to answer that question, honestly, people who become researchers actually like reading long, lengthy, complicated works of just what a regular person would find boring. It's just the nature of scientific research, There is only so much you can simplify. Of course, you're very right in saying that effective graphical and visual representation of data can make it easy for other experts to understand your work even better. And there are many attempts to do this. In different journals, you'll find that they have these graphical abstracts, they have short abstracts, or small paragraphs that concisely summarize or describe what the work, what the article is about. But there is no way to actually minimize text and just use figures to communicate everything. There has to be, you are very welcome, and it's actually appreciated if figures are self-explanatory. I would really admire somebody putting in that effort and making nice, effective figures. But all these figures have to be supported by text. That is just the way it's done. But that doesn't stop you from making good figures, if that is your question. So please make good figures.
Thank you, Pooja. I would like to add on here that there is a journal of video presentation. It shows all the, very nicely, videoed, protocols and processes. And it is called as JOVE, Jove. So we can all go to that, it has the latest, protocols and processes, and they are explained in a stepwise manner for the students. And it is very good, actually. So if you're doing something new, innovative in the lab, you can record those videos yourself in the stepwise manner and submit to the journal as a research article. So please go to this, and it's very good, actually.
Yes.
So Pooja will be almost coming to the the end of the question session. It has been really great, interacting with you, and we have really done well. And really good comments are coming across from YouTube as well as from this Zoom chat. And we are really happy and proud to have you here with us, amongst us. So over to you, Shanli ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ruchi. Pooja, marvelous. Totally, totally spellbounding and a very good teaching tool. Everybody, you got such good comments throughout. So you have all the makings of a good teacher and professor. So well done. So very proud of you.
Thank you. Thank
so
you
very
much.
proud.
So I really wonder how she will look like a professor.
No, she's going to do a great job, I'm sure of that today. This was just a trailer. So now we know the movie, how it's going to be. So
Thank you.
One thing I would, I'm sorry, ma'am, for interrupting. What Shubhanshu Kumar is, continuously raising the hand. Shubhanshu, would you like to unmute yourself and ask something from Pooja? Shubhanshu, please unmute. Shubhanshu, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask something from Pooja, you have been raising hand quite often. Am I audible to you, Shubhanshu?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. मैम मैम मुझे ये पूछना था, जैसे मैम मेरा लैपटॉप इस समय वर्क नहीं कर रहा है, तो मैम जैसे कभी कोई क्वेरीज हो रिसर्च से रिलेटेड, तो कैसे आपको कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं?
हम आपको बेटा अपना ईमेल अभी पोस्ट करेंगे, अपना जीमेल यहाँ पे पोस्ट करेंगे. You can all direct your questions to us directly on that Gmail, and if we are able to answer that, or if Pooja is able to answer that, she'll be able to do that. Okay. So thank you. We have mentioned that also earlier. Okay, over to you, Shalini ma'am. Sorry.
Thank you, ma'am. It's okay. It's okay. See, we are thankful that you have shown interest, especially our dear students have shown so much of interest. And I'll be very glad that you revert back with your queries and doubts. Pooja is always there, right? Without infringing on her research and her time, So we're trying to send the questions to her and get back the answers, right? And please remember, all of you, this national series is not the end. 7th August, official end, but yes, since we are talking about the term igniting minds, so now the genesis of ideas will start, no? So you can always come back to us, so you can go to anybody who will, satisfy those ideas, queries. And I'm assuring you that the Bhaskaracharya team is always there. Our platform is always open, and you can reach out. And with your queries, probably we might have a similar kind. Depending upon your queries, we can, have more programs in near future also, which are beneficial to each one of you, right? So it's just the beginning. Feel free to write. I very personally feel that students, they keep thinking about things, they do not utter them out, So please do so, and it's much easier in the virtual world. You have to just type and send. We don't even see also, right? So you can do it, use it to your benefit. And coming to the end of the day, I think we have answered all the questions. Now I'll request Pooja to just post the link to her quiz. Pooja?
Yes.
And what is the time duration for that live? How many minutes are you giving?
Oh, I think everybody would be done in 5 minutes. It's simple.
Let us make it 10 minutes, Pooja, to be,
yes.
And then you can stop accepting responses after that.
Okay.
Oh, if you want to do that, then let's give people 15 minutes.
Yeah,
or...
do so. I think 15 minutes will be a good time. Just give 15.
2-3 things I would like to announce while Pooja, you post the link in the chat box. And
yes,
you can post at the same time in the YouTube as well. Neeru?
Yes, ma'am, I will be doing that.
Okay. So once Pooja does it in Zoom, then you do it in YouTube after that. Yes.
Okay. Okay, sounds good.
All the students are requested to attempt the quiz first, and after quiz, please fill the feedback form for the workshop.
And remember, this is not an assessment. It is just your, your view on how it went, and how much you have, actually attained from it. Some takeaway thing for you.
And you want to keep this quiz as a reference source, so you can, ask the Google form to get a response from the Google form after you fill it out.
Response button.
Should I post it?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
No?
Sorry.
Okay.
I think...
No issues. No issues.
Do people see the link? I think I've sent it to everybody.
Yes, yes. It is gone.
Yes, yes. All are requested to fill the link. All the students who are participating in this workshop, whether on the Facebook, on the YouTube channel.
Not opening, Pooja.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Pooja, it's saying only to the email IDs of your organization. So,
I think it should be open to public.
Sorry. Yes, I've fixed that now. Sorry.
No issues.
I just post it again, Pooja. Post
yes, ma'am. And I'm going to limit to one response.
Yes.
And we will collect email addresses.
Yes, you should. You should.
And give them the option to mail their own form so that they can have the reference of the questions.
They can get a response after they submit.
Okay, everybody, your time starts now actually with the second posting. It's open to all now. So get going, please, everybody. All the very best.
And I would like to tell everybody that the young minds are our most potential resource. So we are doing everything for you. Okay, so please, give your feedbacks to us, and I've seen many feedbacks in the in the YouTube as well. Many people want a workshop on plagiarism, so especially for students. So we'll be doing that very shortly.
Dr. Sunita Sheljan was there. Professor,
yes, ma'am.
Can you just unmute her?
I think she can do it herself. Dr. Sunita? I will just check.
Yes, please check, please.
Yes, ma'am, she is there. Sunita, ma'am, if you are able to hear me, if I'm audible.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
And you can switch on your video as well. And I think most of the, the coordinators on this forum can switch on their videos, and we can just interact with each other while the students do their job.
But Ruchi, they'll be disturbed.
No, ma'am, it hardly take much. Won't take much time.
It's a fairly straightforward because I don't think they'll have to think.
Okay. Oh, cool.
So, Dr.
Sunita.
Yes, I'm there.
Okay. Very good evening. Thanks for joining in.
Good evening. Thanks.
Thanks for being there, attending all the things.
Can I say a few words about Pooja?
I was about to tell you, and I wanted to introduce you to Pooja also. Pooja, are you?
Pooja, video on karna beta zara.
Sorry, I was stuffing my face with food. Sorry.
No problem, Pooja. You take 5 minutes. I think I will also just take 5 minutes and come back maybe.
Yes, that would be very nice. Thank you. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
I will stop the video.
Just give me 5.
Lunch time for her there, actually. Yeah. So it has been an enormous journey for all of us. All these four days. Many students have done with the quiz. Yeah. So
I think, did we post the attendance form?
Yeah, attendance and feedback link should now be posted once again.
Yes, exactly.
So Neeru?
Yes, ma'am, I'm posting it.
In both the places, beta, Zoom and YouTube.
Right.
Ma'am, then the announcements for the Manav again you will be doing?
Yes, I will do. I'm just doing it. I was just giving them peace of mind if they were attempting the quiz.
Dr. Subir, if you would like to say something. Das Gupta, sir.
No, ma'am. It's all right.
Oh, thank you, sir. Dr. Harathi is also there. Dr. Harathi, if she wants to say something.
Yes, ma'am, I'm there.
Okay. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. I just wanted to see the questions, so I was logging into that.
Okay.
Okay. So I wanted to know how many questions I can answer.
Oh, cool.
Okay, great.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Do that.
Another very important question which is coming again and again on YouTube is that they want to present this particular video link of Pooja. So I've told them you will have to email it to us. Then only we can send you the link for your personal viewing.
Oh, sure. So while making the announcements, we can always say, okay. Okay.
नीरू ने डाल दी?
I am about to check that.
Ma'am, क्या चीज?
Attendance and the feedback link for this workshop. 2 forms, no? Feedback and the attendance, right?
And it's been posted.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr.
Feedback is only for students.
Yes, sir. Sir, you can also fill. No issues, sir.
Okay.
You're welcome, sir. We'll definitely like your insights also, sir. Please do it, sir. Thank you.
Are we through?
We are just waiting for Pooja to be back actually, and then we wind it up because Sunita ma'am wanted to speak to Pooja. Yeah. So I'm just waiting for Pooja to be back.
I'm back.
Oh, that was fast. Okay, that was real fast. Huh? Okay.
Hello, I'm back.
Dr. Sunita?
I'm back too.
Okay. You are going to run your video for us? You're going to be there?
Can Ruchi show me that? I mean,
yeah, I am just saying
at the bottom left, you can start your video, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, great, ma'am.
You're there. Okay.
Doctor ma'am, पहले पूजा को बता दीजिए डॉक्टर सुनीता कौन है?
हाँ. Ruchi, you will do the honors. चलो, करो.
So Dr. Sunita has been one of the speakers for our National Science Series. And she has been the superannuated professor from RRAC Mumbai. And, she had basically spoken about how to write a research proposal. And now over to you, Sunita
I
ma'am.
can just add few more lines to that. She's from Ruia College, one of
Ruia,
very renowned college of Mumbai. She has great expertise in and she works on medicinal plants, and she loves to travel, and one of very good human also, and Star College scheme, she has been in the main task force also. So she has contributed not as a teacher, but also as a researcher and also as a policy maker, which is a rare combo, Most of the time we tend to field, but I think she's an all-rounder, and one of the role models which, at least as a person, I would like to follow, in life, and has a very beautiful garden, loves plants,
So do I. Oh, I've become a plant lady as well.
So she has many facets to her personality, and they're all very interesting, and she does at most of the things she does, So that's part of it. So Pooja, Professor Sunita, few words with our student.
Hi, Pooja. I didn't want it, anyway. Thanks a lot, Shalini, for saying those nice words, and Dr. Ruchi also. But you are saying those words because you are a nice person. So there's nothing nice about me, Pooja, but that is because they are such nice people.
Thank you.
Actually, when I was listening to your program, Pooja, I really wanted you to be my mentor for some time, because I really mean it. I really mean it. Maybe when my second.
Itna nahi, ma'am. Itna nahi.
No, where I'll tell you where I want you. It's an age of specialization. So I want you there, or probably you could help me when my students are now 6 of them are writing their theses and research papers. You can imagine my condition. What is it?
Oh my God. Oh, bless you.
That question which had come to you, that whether they should cite the same line, it was for them because they are there in the program. They come back saying that, ma'am, it has come in plagiarism but it was our own paper. So I have to really tell them that you can, like you were talking about something that officially, legally it is not there, but otherwise we all know, what can be. So same way, you cite your own line, doesn't matter. Because Pooja, I'll tell you the secret why, because they want to cite their own paper where we are already there. You understand? I'm letting the secret out actually. I'm
yes.
not. But as a researcher, you have certain other duties also that they shouldn't do it. So that's why I asked you that question, that at least rephrase it, at least put it in some different, context.
Slightly, yes.
One very small interruption. Ma'am, Shalini ma'am, should I stop YouTube live stream?